Well, hello there. This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and this is our third part series on reducing crime. And today we're going to be focusing on reducing crime without using a police force to do it. So, Tom, do you have some ideas about what that looks like and what that entails?
Right. Well, the first show dealt with the idea that we have bad communication that seems to point that the only way to reduce crime is by force, by policing. Add more police. The second show, we talked about no one is asking why crime happens. This show is concentrating on some solutions like community centers help reduce crime, devoting more funding to mental health facilities, devoting more funding for tutoring and skill development of the youth. Those are some key areas.
Well, let's start out. Let's start out with the community center. So, what are some of your findings around that? And I'll share some of the things that I've found around or noticed about the impact that community centers and places for learning centers and community centers, how they impact the community.
Well, New York University actually has a 20-year study that shows community centers have reduced crime. This was done in 264 cities, looking at 100,000 residents. They found that the homicide rate decreased by 9%, violent crime by 6%, property crime by 4%. The community center becomes a way of expressing oneself. Without the community center, we have a lot of people who can actually fall into a trap of crime because of gang influence or desperation, problems, frustration because of COVID, because of loss of job, being evicted. And so the community center can become a vehicle to bring people together.
Well, one of the things that I notice is that a lot of times you pointed to it around gangs, they go to gangs because there's a bonding that takes place. They're looking for a place outside of the home to be with people, to be with friends. And if you've got a community center, you've probably got some adults that are interested in kids, that are interested in their well-being, and is interested in them doing well in society. And so you've got automatic mentoring ship kind of built in, and you've also got models for them other than the crime buddies that are on the street that are basically don't have anything else to do, so they make up stuff, and crime is usually the thing that they make up. So you're really providing them with an alternative to keep themselves busy. And most programs have something constructive for them to do, either sports or um, music, or in that movie that you always reference, the swimming. They
That's the movie Pride with Terrence Howard.
with Terrence Howard. Yeah.
One key part of that shows one of the swimmers is being tempted to fall into a gang, and the coach actually helps him avoid that. But if we don't have the rec center, then he goes with the gang.
Exactly, exactly. So those are some on the court examples of how a community center could certainly impact. Now, the second area you talked about was health services, mental health services.
Yes. Now, it's fascinating. I recently heard an interview with the district attorney of San Francisco, um, who has reduced crime in San Francisco. And one of the ways he has done that is to actually focus on mental health, adding more people to the point of helping the mentally health of people in prison. Why should they be in prison rather than in a health facility? Now, if they can be helped in a health facility, that's going to be reducing crime. If we keep them in a prison setting, this is going to intensify a crime growth, because we have people who develop more of a me versus them mentality just to survive in prison.
Sure. You're so right, because when I look at the crime that's being portrayed by mental health people who, after COVID, and it was happening before COVID, so COVID is really another layer of complexity added to the situation. But you've got these folks who are not taking their medication, and because of that, they act out and they get violent sometimes, and that's why they're not with their families. So they become homeless and on the street, and still act out because that's part of the symptoms that they're dealing with. But the thing that I'm a little troubled by is that, because you don't want to invade their rights to, you know to hospitalization. You can ask them, and the support ask them, are they willing to come get help, or come get shelter, or you know get a bath and change their clothes and so on and so forth. But they can refuse to do that, so they can remain on the street, and it's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for the rest of the public as well. So
Well, actually, one way of getting around that might be to have better education, people who are trained to explain things better to them. And maybe if they had the chance of giving them some of those buildings we talked about that are vacant, why shouldn't they be given the ability to set up their own home in a place that's part of the local area, rather than be homeless? Now, cities that have tried this have found that it works.
it does, and I think Arizona was one of the places that had had a very highly effective program, because you've got that you have stabilized them, and once they're stabilized, then they're able to actually get jobs and so forth, and it makes a huge difference in their ability to re-enter society in a more productive way.
Now, if we do talk of mental health, and if we're talking about COVID, we're also talking about the effect of healthcare. Now, if we have a population of people who are not very wealthy, maybe they don't have healthcare. So this is another layer. They're suffering because our healthcare system does not think of everyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Point well taken.
So all of these are adding layers of what leads to crime. Now, if we address these layers, we can stop crime from even emerging. It's not a question of police coming in and solving the problem after the frustration is there. Let's deal with the frustration. Let's deal with the root cause.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's the essentials of it, dealing with the root cause and not the symptom, not the after effect that is then, a policeman, you know, handcuffing or, jailing someone. Um, we've got a systemic problem that needs to be addressed at the root level. Otherwise, we're not going to get, we're not going to make a whole lot of progress.
We also have, well, one example is, despite the language from Mayor Adams about needing more police, he has actually put together a program called the Be Heard program. From June to November last year, let's see, some teams actually responded to calls dealing with mental health, but also part of this program, I think, deals with developing a summer program for young students. And in a way, this wasn't fully thought out. They lacked some transportation. That was part of a problem, I believe. These things have to be put in motion before the rollout of a program. Otherwise, you're going to have confusion. Maybe this is why very little has been explained to the public about programs like Be Heard. It's easy, very easy to say, let's put more police on the street. But is that really affecting the problem?
Right, and as you said earlier, the Be Heard program is really, it was an attempt, but it wasn't rolled out effectively, so that it actually could take the spillage and the excess, and it wasn't 24 hours, which was one of the other issues as well. It wasn't 24/7, and so you've got certain limited hours. You don't have it in all the neighborhoods, and so you're now kind of picking spots, but are those the right spots? Are those the right times? A program like that, to be effective, really needs to be fully rolled out and at least given a shot to reduce the initiatives that it was designed to do.
Any final thoughts?
Well, I think that that we've got to work with the community. The community is probably the biggest place to help support the reduction of crime. The police have their part, but and the community has their part. And I think the two have to be working fully in tangent to be able to really knock the socks out of crime.
Well, if you like what you see, get in touch with us via our Facebook page, Community and Social Change.
Thank you.